The rain hadn't stopped for hours. It came down in sheets, cold and relentless, tapping against the windows like impatient fingers trying to get in. The house was quiet, too quiet, except for the low hum of the refrigerator and the occasional groan of old wood shifting beneath the weight of the storm. Somewhere deep in the walls, the pipes moaned, almost like they were alive, breathing, stretching, waiting. Nights like this had a way of making you notice every sound. The smallest creak felt louder. Every shadow seemed to move. And when you're home alone, your mind starts to fill in the blanks that the dark leaves empty. There's something about the rain that makes isolation heavier. It muffles the world outside. You can't hear cars, you can't hear voices, just that endless rhythm of water and wind. It becomes a kind of hypnosis, lulling you into comfort until something breaks the pattern. Maybe it's the sound of footsteps that don't belong to you. Maybe it's the slow, deliberate turr and of a door handle down the hall. Maybe it's nothing. Or maybe it's the one thing you hoped wasn't real. On nights like this, I always think about how vulnerable we really are inside our homes. We convince ourselves we're safe. Locked doors, drawn curtains, a warm light in the corner of the room. But safety is a fragile illusion, especially when the power flickers and the shadows start to stretch. You tell yourself it's just the wind, just the house settling, just your imagination. But there's a moment, that exact second, when your body realizes before your mind does that you're not alone. The storm outside grows louder, and somehow that makes the silence inside feel worse. You glance at your phone, maybe out of habit, maybe to reassure yourself that someone's still out there. But there's no signal. There never is when you need it most. The clock ticks louder. You feel the walls closing in. Every flash of lightning paints the room in a different shape, showing you glimpses of thin GS that shouldn't be there. Maybe a figure near the hallway, maybe a reflection in the glass that doesn't move when you do. You try to breathe steady, try to laugh it off, but the sound catches in your throat. You start to notice details. The faint scent of damp earth from the open window, the drip of water near the back door, the slow echo of footsteps on the wooden floorboards that lead closer and closer until they stop. Right outside your room, the rain doesn't hide it anymore. The knocking is clear now, 3 slow, deliberate knocks. You freeze, staring at the door, waiting for it to come again. But it doesn't. The silence that follows is somehow worse. It stretches on until you're not sure if you imagined it. And just when you start to convince yourself it was nothing, that's when you hear it. The faint sound of breathing right behind the door. It's funny how quickly a normal night can turn into something you'll never forget. It always starts the same way. A quiet evening. Maybe you're scrolling on your phone, making something to eat, or watching a show you've seen a dozen times. The world outside feels distant, harmless. You're comfortable in your space, surrounded by the familiar sounds of your home, the low hum of the TV, the rain tapping softly on the windows, the faint creak of the floor when you move from one room to another. It's ordinary, safe, until something shifts. Maybe it's the way the lights flicker for just a second. You glance up, tell yourself it's the storm, and keep watching. Then, a few minutes later, you hear a noise, a soft thud, maybe from the other end of the house. You pause, listen, nothing. You press play again. But there's that sound again, a little louder this time. You mute the TV, hold your breath, and strain to listen through the sound of the rain. Nothing, just silence. You shake your head, laugh at yourself for getting spooked over nothing, and go back to what you were doing. But your body doesn't relax this time. There's something about that silence that doesn't feel right. We all know that feeling, when the hairs on the back of your neck start to rise and you can't explain why. When the air in the room feels heavier, like someone standing too close. You tell yourself it's just paranoia, but your eyes keep drifting toward the hallway, toward the places your mind says are empty, but your instincts don't believe. You start turning on lights as you walk through the house, trying to prove to yourself there's nothing there. You check the locks, even though you know you already locked them. You check the back door, the windows, the curtains. Every time you convince yourself you're fine, another sound interrupts. A faint click, a dragging noise, maybe even the creak of a floorboard in a room you weren't just in. And even though you try to ignore it, your mind starts replaying every horror story you've ever heard. The strange thing is, it's never the sound itself that's scary. It's what it could be. You think about how many times you've been home alone and didn't notice something small. A door left slightly open, a light turned off that you swear you left on. You start to wonder if you ever really were alone. You try to shake the feeling off, maybe turn on some music, distract yourself, but the rain outside keeps pounding harder and the house feels smaller with every gust of wind. Every shadow looks unfamiliar now. The comfort of your home has turned into something else, a maze of quiet spaces you no longer trust. You try to tell yourself everything's fine, but deep down you already know, something's off tonight. There's a certain calm that comes with fear when it lasts long enough. At first, it's panic, sharp, loud, heavy in your chest, but then it settles into something quieter, something that whispers instead of screams. You start to move slower, breathe softer, think differently. Every sound becomes important. Every second stretches out. You stop trying to see yourself there's nothing there. Instead, you start listening for proof that there is. The rain outside keeps a steady rhythm, like a heartbeat against the glass. The house feels alive now, breathing in time with the storm. The lights dim again for just a moment, and you realize how easily the darkness could swallow everything. You start to imagine what it would be like if the power went out completely. If the only thing left was the sound of the rain in the shape of the shadows. It's not a pleasant thought, but you can't stop thinking it. You move through the house carefully, trying not to make noise, though you don't know why. Maybe it's instinct. Maybe it's fear. The floorboards creak under your feet no matter how light you step. You glance toward the front door, half expecting to see it standing open, but it's closed, locked, just like before. Still, it feels like someone's been here. Like the air itself has changed since you last walked through. The hallway looks longer, and you remember. It's darker, too, even though the same lamp glows softly at the end. You tell yourself to go back to the couch, turn up the volume, Locked earlier, it's not open, but it's not closed either. Just barely ajar, like someone forgot to pull it shut all the way. You stare at it for what feels like forever, waiting for movement, waiting for a sound, waiting for something. The rain outside gets heavier, drowning out everything else. You reach for the handle, your hand shaking, and just before you touch it, it moves. Not much, just enough to let out a small creak, and that calm, uneasy silence breaks all over again. The hardest part about fear isn't what you see, it's what you think you see. The human mind fills in the dark with its own imagination. And when the world outside goes quiet, that's when the noise inside your head gets louder. You start noticing things you've never noticed before. The way the shadows shift when the lightning flashes. The faint outline of something in the corner of your eye that disappears when you look directly at it. You tell yourself it's nothing, but your heart doesn't believe you. It's already beating too fast. It's strange how the brain tries to protect you and terrify you at the same time. You hear a sound, a faint scraping, a soft shuffle, and immediately your mind paints a picture. You don't want it to, but it does. You imagine someone standing there just out of sight, watching you, waiting for you to move closer. You try to breathe quietly, but even your breathing sounds too loud. The storm outside is supposed to be comforting, supposed to drown out the silence, but now it only feels like a curtain, a wall of noise hiding whatever else is moving beneath it. You glance at the window, and for a moment you swear you see something move in the reflection. Not behind you, but in front of you, outside. You lean in, eyes squinting against the glare of the rain, and you realize how dark it really is out there, how little separates you from whatever could be standing just beyond the glass. The lightning flashes again, and you flinch, certain you saw something. Ape? A face? Maybe nothing at all. But now you can't unsee it. That image stays in your mind, burned there by the light. Every sound feels deliberate now. Every moment of silence feels loaded. You start to notice the small inconsistencies. A chair slightly out of place, a picture frame tilted at an angle you don't remember. The more you look, the more wrong everything feels. It's subtle, almost invisible, but it's there. Something's off. You can't explain it, but it's real. You start to question your own senses. Maybe the sound was just the pipes. Maybe the door really did move because of the wind. Maybe your eyes are just tired. You try to reason with yourself, but reasoning doesn't help when the fear isn't physical, when it's coming from the inside out. Because deep down, you know something's here. You can't see it, can't hear it clearly, but you feel it. That invisible awareness, like someone standing too close behind you, like a pair of eyes fixed on you from the dark. And the most terrifying part is realizing that you'll never know when it steps out of your imagination and into reality. That's how fear works. It doesn't need to touch you. It just needs to stay close enough that you start to believe it's real. And once that belief takes hold, it never really leaves. The rain had started to slow, but the house still felt heavy with it. The air was thick, carrying that damp chill that seeps through the walls after hours of a storm. The lights flickered again just once and then steadied. You stood there staring at the door that had moved, your hand still hovering inches from the handle. Every part of you screamed to check it, to pull it open, to prove to yourself there was nothing there, but you didn't. You couldn't. Because deep down, you weren't sure you wanted to know. That's the thing about fear. It's not always in the noise or the movement or even the dark. It's in the waiting. It's in the stillness that comes after. You keep expecting something to happen, for the moment to break, but it doesn't. The silence stretches on, longer than it should, until it starts to feel unnatural. You take a step back, the floor groans beneath your foot. The sound is small, but it feels enormous in that quiet. You glance around the room. Everything is exactly where it was. The clock ticking steadily, the light above the sink swaying just slightly with the hum of the wind. But it doesn't feel right. The house feels different now, as if something changed when you weren't looking. You don't see anyone, you don't hear anything. But the feeling doesn't go away. If anything, it gets stronger. That slow crawl at the back of your neck, that awareness of space you can't see but somehow know isn't empty. You back away from the door step by step, never taking your eyes off it. You reach for your phone on the counter, desperate for that small connection to something normal, but the screen's black. Dead. You press the button again, nothing. And just what? And you start to look back toward the door. You hear it. Not the knocks this time, not footsteps, just a single soft exhale. Close. Too close, your breath catches. You can't tell where it came from, behind the door, inside the house, or somewhere in between. You stand frozen, heart pounding so loud it drowns out the rain. Seconds pass, nothing. The air feels colder now, like it's pressing against your skin. You take one more step back, and that's when you notice the faintest line of water sliding under the door. It seeps across the floor, slow and deliberate, dark and thin like something breathing through the cracks. You want to run, to move, to do anything, but your legs won't listen. You can only stare as the water spreads and then stops. Suddenly, unnaturally, as if whatever was pushing it through just stepped away. The silence that follows feels endless, and maybe that's where it ends. You don't open the door, you don't find out what was there, because some nights it's bet, or not to. Some nights the unknown is safer left untouched. So if you ever find yourself home alone on a rainy night and the knocking starts, don't answer it. Just listen and hope it doesn't start breathing back.